Ethan's sleeping in, but Vegas never sleeps, so we get up early and check out a new property for the vlog, Caesar's Palace. We're not Asian, but we find ourselves in awe of Caesar's decorations for the year of the ox. The decorations are interesting. It looks like they put some explosives in a plant. We then touch a few ornaments for good luck, and finally make our way to the poker room. We sit down at the 1-3 table with 300 in our stack. We look down at Queen Jack of Diamonds from the under the gun +1 position. Under the gun limps. I raise it up to $15 here, and only the limper calls. So we're going heads up to the flop, which comes Jack, 5, 6. We flop top pair, and now the under the gun position player donks into us for $15. I make a pretty easy call here, so we're going heads up to the turn. 64 in the pot, the turn comes the 5 of diamonds, which is pretty much a brick, and we now have 2 pair with a queen kicker. We're still ahead of any draws, but we're still behind ace jack and king jack. She continues to bet, this time to the tune of $35. I make another pretty straightforward call, and the river comes the 5 of hearts, giving us a boat. We're chopping against the hands that we were losing to, but she doesn't slow down and bets 110 into 134 here. Not much of a decision here. I put in the call, and we're expecting to chop, but instead she says nice hand, which is definitely music to our ears and shows ace king for the total bluff there. We scoop a $354 pot right off the bat. Table breaks, so we're at a new table. 470 in our stack. We look down at ace king from the small blind. Under the gun +1 raises to $17, and when it folds to me, I 3-bet to 65. Everybody folds. Pretty standard hand, but I used to flat large early position raises a lot in the past, and I'm working on 3-bet or folding primarily, so I'm really happy that I made the right play here. Next hand, ace queen offsuit from the big blind, straddles on, under the gun +1 raises to 12. The button calls and the small blind calls, so I make a big raise here, this time to $55. Under the gun +1 calls, the small blind calls as well, so we're going 3 ways to the flop with 183 in the pot. Flop's a good one for us. It comes ace, king, 5, 2 diamonds. We have the nut advantage here and are not too worried about being beat. When the small blind checks, I bet $55 and both fold, so we scoop that $238 pot. Pocket queens is the next hand here. We are in the hijack position. It folds to me. I raise it to 12 and get called by just the small blind. Heads up to the flop comes jack, deuce, 7. Small blind checks, and with an overpair here, I bet $15 and he calls. Pretty straightforward. The turn comes the 5 of spade, and that's not really a card that scares us too often, so when he checks to us again, I bet $32 and he folds. We drag an $89 pot. Pocket jacks from the under the gun position. We have 580 in our stack. I raise to 14. Middle position player calls. We're going heads up to the flop, which comes jack, deuce, 6. We flop top set in Las Vegas. What a dream. I want to set a trap here. I check. I hope he either has a jack or he thinks that I'm weak. Obviously, there's only 1 jack left in the deck, but our plan works here as he bets $15 and I just put in the call. Turn with 62 in the pot comes the 8 of spades, which is not the best card because it brings in the front door flush and connects the boards in terms of straights. But we have top set here, so I check again and he bets $20 this time. I think we need to raise here to protect our hand against all draws, so that's what I do. I raise to $67 and I expect to get called at a high frequency here, but not this time. He folds. We're going to take down that $149 pot.
Thank you.
$620 in our stack. We have ace 5 of diamonds from the big blind. Folds all the way around to the small blind who calls. So the decision is on us here, and my poker coach told me to raise all day in this spot. So that's what I do. I raise it to $11 and he calls. Heads up to the flop with 22 in the pot comes queen, deuce, 6, 2 diamonds. We flop a flush draw. He checks. I bet $11 here and he calls. Turn comes the 3 of clubs now, so it gives us a gutter to the straight. So when he shows weakness and checks for a second time here, I keep the pressure on and bet $31. He doesn't have a hand though that he wants to continue with. He folds his cards, and we're going to drag that $75 pot with ace high. We get a table change now. We have 640 in our stack. We look down at king, queen offsuit from the small blind. Under the gun and button both limp. I raise to 15. Both of them call, so we're going three ways to the flop, which comes ace, 5, 9. I bet $14 here. Under the gun position player folds and the button calls. We're going heads up to the turn, which comes the 7 of diamonds. I check, looking to see what the button does, and he checks as well. Interesting. I don't really put him on an ace here when he checks back the turn, so we're going to be looking to steal the pot on the river if it's a blank. That's exactly what happens. The river comes the deuce of clubs. I put them all in now for $77, thinking this works a lot of the time against all one pair hands. And like I said, he shouldn't have too many ace-x in his range here when he checks back the turn. But unfortunately, this is one of those times as he calls with ace-deuce for a river 2 pair, and we lose that pot. He drags $230. 530 in our stack. We look down at queen jack offsuit from middle position. I'm pretty bored at this point, so I raise it up to $12 and the small blind calls. Heads up to the flop, which comes king 5-3. We have nothing. He checks. I bet $6 here because who knows why, and he calls because like who's folding for $6? Turn with 39 in the pot comes a 9 of spades, which helps us out a bit in our terrible bluff that we're running. We pick up a gut shot to the 10. He checks. I bet 25 and he calls again. Shit. The river with 89 in the pot comes a 6 of spades because why would we get rewarded by the poker gods with this terrible line? But I'm not stopping now. I bet $45 here, and somehow, some way, he believes us and folds his cards, and obviously we have to show this dumb play to the table for image and to get paid in later hands, but we're going to scoop that $134 pot. If you thought this play was as dumb as I do now, please make sure to take a second to subscribe and like this video. Pocket kings the next hand in the big blind. We have 570 in our stack. Under the gun +1 limps. The middle position player limps as well. The small blind now raises to 7, which is basically a min raise, so I click it back to $23 and only get called by the small blind. Heads up to the flop with 52 in the pot comes 6, 10, 7, rainbow. He checks. I make a standard c-bet here for $20 and he folds. We drag that $72 pot. 5-handed now. We're in the big blind with jack 10 offsuit. Middle position player raises to 12 and I call. Heads up to the flop comes 8, 9, 6. So we have ourselves an open-ended straight draw and check. He bets $13 here, which is a pretty straightforward call for us. That's what I do. Turn comes a jack of spades, so now gives us top pair with our straight draw. I check again here, and he checks behind, so I think that we're probably good at this point. The river with 69 in the pot comes the king of clubs, and I think we have the best hand here a large portion of the time, so I want to get thin value against all one pair type hands. I bet 18, but he folds. You're going to want to grab a beer for this next hand because it's a doozy. We have 680 in our stack. We look down at the ladies. Pocket queens from the hijack. I raise it up to $11 and we get called from the small blind and the big blind. So we're going three ways to the flop with 33 in the pot. Comes 4, 5, 6, rainbow. Both check. I bet $17 here and we just get called by the small blind. So going heads up to the turn. Turn's not a great one. It comes to 8 of clubs, which puts a one-liner to the straight. Small blind checks again though, and even though the board is scary, I have an overpair here, so I bet $40. He goes all in now for $97. Even though I think I'm beat here most of the time, it's an additional $57 here to call. That's what I do. I put in the money. The river with 261 comes a 7 of spades. He quickly flips over 6-7 for the straight. But I read it as 2 pair, and I go to show my hand with the mentality that I got into a bad beat situation. As you can see here, they flip the wrong way and stay down. Like seriously, let's take another look at this. How does this even happen? The dealer mucks my cards, and immediately the table says, why didn't you show there was a straight on the board? I did not just fold a chop. The 7 came on the river. No, I lost out on $130. I've always heard of people doing stupid things like this, but never thought I was capable. Maybe I should have just slept in like Ethan. JK. Do me a favor and pause the video right now and comment the word leave if you would get up after something like this, or the word play if you'd buckle down and try to win it back. We're on tilt now, so we put in the straddle. That's the obvious thing to do. We have king 5 of hearts. Under the gun +1, button, small blind, and the big blind all call my straddle. I check my option. The flop comes 7, jack, 9, 2 hearts, which is not a bad flop for us given the amount of players in it. We have the second nut flush draw. I bet 21. Under the gun +1, the button, and the big blind all call. So we're going 4 ways to the turn with 114 in the pot, giving us top pair, the king of clubs. The most obvious draw of queen 10 now comes in, but I keep betting this time for $40. Under the gun +1 now shoves for $255, which is definitely concerning, and the big blind calls for less. He has around $60 in his stack. We're not getting the right price to call here if we put under the gun on a made hand, like a set or a 2 pair or straight, so begrudgingly I fold my cards. The river comes to 6 of diamonds though, which is nice to see because I probably would have ran directly out of the room if it was a heart. Under the gun +1 shows pocket 9s for a set of 9s, and the big blind, who went it all in for $60, shows deuce 4 of hearts, which is probably why the hearts didn't come for us. Phew, we dodged one there. We cash out for $492, so a profit of $192. Wow, that's kind of frustrating. We ended up booking a $192 win, but it could have been a lot more. Well, not a lot more, but it could have been $320 if we didn't fold our queens stupidly, slash if gravity would have worked in our favor and it would have turned my cards the right way up. But didn't think that would happen to me, but I guess we're all suspect to it from time to time. If you guys want to make my day a little bit better here, please like the video, subscribe if you're new, drop a comment, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace! Thanks for watching to the end of my video. Click my head below to subscribe and stay in the loop. See you next time.